The greenskeeper at a country club knows a secret that homeowners driving past those immaculate fairways never hear. It isn't the pricey equipment or the locked-away blend of chemicals. The truth is that every time the shed is opened, a living network beneath the turf is being killed. Under the flawless greens and under any struggling patch of lawn, there is a web of fungal threads and microscopic organisms that have spent millions of years perfecting grass growth. This network feeds the roots, fights disease, and builds a soil structure you simply cannot buy in a bag. The standard maintenance schedule used by most golf courses and recommended to homeowners slowly starves that network. The most manicured turf on the planet ends up fighting its own biology, and then thousands of dollars are spent each month to mask the damage. If you understand what this biology does, you can grow a deep, dense, drought-resistant, golf-grade carpet in your own yard for a fraction of the cost. No chemical schedule, no professional contract, just waking up the soil beneath your feet. Most people get grass completely backwards. They assume the green color comes from fertilizer and that a thick stand of grass is the result of whatever is sprayed on top. Consequently, the homeowner's approach becomes a chase more product, more frequency, more money, hoping to buy a magazine cover lawn. In reality, grass does not eat fertilizer the way we imagine. It feeds itself through a partnership. Down in the top few inches of soil, a constant trade occurs. The plant pumps sugars, real energy-rich carbon created from sunlight, down into the soil. This is not waste, it is payment. In exchange, billions of bacteria and fungi deliver nitrogen, phosphorus, micronutrients, and water back up to the roots in a form the plant can actually use. This economy only runs if the soil is alive. Typical synthetic feeding programs flood the root zone with soluble salts, fast nitrogen, and instantly available phosphorus. The grass takes the easy meal, greens up quickly, and you feel like a genius. But the plant receives a chemical message that it no longer needs its microbial partners, so it stops sending sugars down. The trade collapses. The biology that was building the soil goes quiet, and the grass becomes an addict, dependent on the next bag of fertilizer because the free service has been switched off. That is the trap country clubs fell into decades ago, and it is the same trap waiting in your garage. The single most underrated organism in any yard is mycorrhizal fungi. Mycorrhiza simply means fungus root, and these fungi live in partnership with grass roots. They send out incredibly fine threads called hyphae, far thinner than any root the plant could grow. These threads slip into tiny soil pockets and pull out water and nutrients that roots cannot reach on their own. A single teaspoon of healthy soil can hold miles of these fungal threads, effectively extending the reach of grass roots by a massive factor. When a club's bentgrass survives a brutal August drought while a neighbor's lawn turns to straw, the difference is often the presence of this network. Mycorrhizal fungi also produce a sticky protein called glomalin, biological glue that binds tiny soil particles into crumbs. Those crumbs create air pockets and channels, allowing water to soak in instead of running off, letting oxygen reach the roots and enabling earthworms to move through. You cannot pour that structure out of a jug. It must be grown by living organisms over time. Every blast of high salt synthetic fertilizer makes the environment harsher for the fungi that build this structure. Consequently, many expensive turf programs are in effect paying to demolish soil structure with one hand and paying again to compensate for the loss with the other. More watering, more aeration, more inputs to replace a free service they have shut off. The hidden bodyguards living inside the grass are being undermined. Another often overlooked organism is the endophyte, a fungus that lives inside the grass plant itself within leaves and stems, completely invisible. Certain grasses, especially many fescues and perennial ryegrasses, naturally carry these fungi. In return for a home, the endophyte produces compounds that are mildly toxic or simply distasteful to a range of surface-feeding insects. A lawn with the right endophytes essentially has its own built-in security system. Chinch bugs, sod webworms, and billbugs take a few bites and move on because the grass tastes wrong to them. No spray is required. The defense is baked into the plant. Yet the default homeowner reflex when a few bugs appear is to reach for an insecticide. That not only hits the pests but also harms predatory insects, beneficial soil organisms, and the broader food web that keeps everything in balance. Solving a small problem quietly creates a bigger one underground. Almost every fix in the conventional playbook trades a fast result today for a weaker, more dependent lawn tomorrow. Why country club greens have roots you could almost floss with is a detail in their management that sabotages root depth, the same mistake most homeowners make. Putting greens are mowed insanely short, sometimes down to 1/8 of an inch. Golfers want a fast, true roll, but the biology nobody mentions on the scorecard is that the depth of a grass plant's roots is directly tied to how much leaf it is allowed to keep. Leaf is the solar panel where the plant makes the sugar that powers root growth and feeds soil microbes. Scalp the leaf down to nothing, and you choke off the energy supply. The roots shrink, the whole system becomes shallow, fragile, and utterly dependent on constant babysitting, daily water, daily feeding, fungicides to prop up grass living on the edge. Country clubs accept that bargain because they have the budget and staff to manage a high-maintenance, shallow-rooted surface. Homeowners do not have to make that trade when you let your lawn grow taller, typically mowing in the 3 to 4 inch range. Something powerful happens below ground. More leaf means more photosynthesis, which means more sugar pumped down to the roots, driving them deeper. Deeper roots reach water that shallow lawns cannot touch, shade the soil, keep it cooler, and smother weed seeds that need sunlight at the soil surface to germinate. A taller lawn isn't lazy. It's a lawn with a bigger engine and a deeper fuel tank, and it does half your maintenance for you. The first step is to test whether your soil is alive or asleep. You don't need a laboratory. A few simple checks with tools you already own are enough. 1. The smell test. Dig a few inches into a moist part of your lawn, lift out a clump, and bring it to your nose. Healthy, biologically active soil has a rich, sweet, earthy scent, the classic after rain aroma. A sour, swampy, metallic, or non-existent smell signals that life down there has gone quiet or the soil is compacted and starved of oxygen. 2. Structure test. Break the same clump in your fingers. Does it crumble into rounded aggregates with visible pores and root threads, or is it a single dense brick? Crumbly, structured soil means fungi and microbes are doing their job. A gummy block means structure is missing. 3. Oz or worm count. Earthworms thrive where there is organic matter and biological activity. Dig a square about a foot across and a few inches deep on a mild, damp day and gently sort through it. A handful of worms is a great sign. None at all repeatedly tells you the underground ecosystem is in trouble. 4. Kerr screwdriver test for compaction. Push an ordinary screwdriver straight down into the lawn. In loose, Living soil, it slides in with light pressure. If it stops dead an inch or two down, the soil is compacted, oxygen isn't reaching the root zone, and aerobic organisms cannot survive there. Run these 4 checks across several spots in your yard. The results will give you a clear picture of the soil's health, far better than a neighbor who has been throwing money at his lawn for years. Now for the fun part, rebuilding the system. The flagship tool costs less than a bag of premium fertilizer and can be reused for years. Compost tea. The idea is simple once you understand the goal. You are not making a liquid fertilizer. You are brewing a living culture. You take a small amount of genuinely good compost, already packed with beneficial bacteria and fungi, and multiply those organisms into the billions, then spread them across your whole lawn. Bazari, how to brew compost tea. Use a 5-gallon bucket of unchlorinated water. Chlorine from tap water kills microbes, so either collect rainwater or let tap water sit for a day. Place a couple of good handfuls of high-quality finished compost or worm castings into a mesh bag, like a giant tea bag, and submerge it in the water. Add a small splash of unsulfured molasses as food to wake the microbes up and get them multiplying. Attach an aquarium air pump with an air stone and run it constantly to pump oxygen through the whole mixture. Oxygen is everything. It keeps the brew dominated by beneficial aerobic organisms instead of full-smelling anaerobes. Let it bubble for about a day. You'll know it's working when the surface foams and the bucket smells sweet and earthy, never rotten. Strain the brew and spray or pour it across your lawn, ideally in the cool of early morning or evening so UV light doesn't fry the living organisms you just grew. What you have done is inoculate your soil with a massive, diverse population of microbial life, plus a little food to help it settle in. Over repeated applications, you are not feeding the grass directly. You are rebuilding the workforce that feeds the grass for you. This is a completely different game than dumping salts on top, and it is the engine of the whole approach. Giving the fungal network a head start is only part of the plan. The next move targets the heavy hitter directly, getting mycorrhizal fungi back into contact with your roots. If your soil has been on a synthetic program for years, those fungi may be present only in small numbers or struggling. You can reintroduce them with a mycorrhizal inoculant. A concentrated dose of fungal spores you can buy fairly cheaply. The trick most people miss is timing and placement. The fungi need to physically touch the roots to colonize them. Sprinkling inoculant on top of an established, undisturbed lawn does almost nothing. The smart move is to apply the inoculant at the exact moment the soil is open, during reseeding or overseeding a thin patch. Mix the inoculant in so it lands right against the new roots as they emerge. Core aerating the lawn, which pulls plugs and opens channels into the root zone, provides the perfect window to broadcast inoculant down into those holes. Get the spores into contact with living roots, and they will establish the partnership and start spreading on their own. Do it once, do it well, and that network becomes a permanent self-renewing feature of your soil. You also have to stop sabotaging it. Heavy phosphorus fertilizer sends a signal to the grass that it has plenty of nutrients and doesn't need its fungal partners. The plant simply stops cooperating and your new colonies fade. Back off the synthetic salts and let the partnership you just paid a few dollars to start actually take hold. The free habits matter just as much as the brewing and inoculants because they keep the system running every week. Mowing, set the blade high and never cut off more than a third of the grass height at once. Keep the blade sharp so you slice the leaf cleanly instead of shredding it. Torn leaf tips are open wounds and invitations to disease. Leave clippings, do not bag them. Clippings are not thatch, they are mostly water, and as they break down, they return a meaningful slice of nitrogen to the soil for free, feeding the microbes. Bagging them is literally throwing fertilizer in the trash. Most people water a little bit every day, keeping moisture at the surface and encouraging shallow roots. Instead, water deeply and infrequently. A long soak that pushes moisture down several inches, followed by letting the surface dry out, trains roots to chase water downward. Deeper roots mean drought resilience and a lawn that needs you less. Core aeration, this is the one piece of equipment work worth doing. Rent a machine for an afternoon or split it with a neighbor. It pulls finger-sized plugs of soil out of the ground, relieving compaction and letting oxygen, water, and your microbial inoculants reach the root zone. Top dressing. After aerating, spread a thin layer of quality compost over the surface. This practice works organic matter and biology down into the soil profile, exactly where the action happens. That combination, core aeration, compost top dressing, and inoculant, is about as close as a homeowner gets to a reset button for tired soil. None of this is exotic. It's a sharp mower blade, a hose, a rented aerator, a bag of compost, and the discipline to stop doing the things that were quietly working against you. When you see the full picture, the country club's expensive routine looks less like a secret and more like an expensive way to fight nature. Elite turf isn't really about what gets sprayed on top. It's about the engine underneath, the fungal networks extending roots, the glomalin building crumbly, breathable soil structure, the endophytes guarding leaves, the microbes trading nutrients for sugar, and the deep root system that all of that makes possible. The conventional high-cost program overrides that engine and then pays endlessly to replace its services. The budget approach does the opposite. You wake the engine back up, get out of its way, and let it carry the load it was always meant to.